Welcome to the Oligo News. Today's spotlight is on an escalating economic crisis that's shaking the foundations of global trade. The intensifying trade war between the United States and China has reached a critical and dangerous turning point. In a bold countermeasure, China has imposed a sweeping 34% tariff on all imports from the United States, effective April 10. This aggressive move follows President Donald Trump's recent imposition of a matching 34% tariff on Chinese imports to the US. The escalating tit-for-tat battle reveals a growing economic standoff between the two superpowers, with each side digging in for a prolonged confrontation. China's response came through an official announcement from its State Council Tariff Commission, which slammed the US action as a violation of international trade norms and labeled it unilateral economic coercion. Beijing emphasized that it will defend its national interests at any cost, regardless of mounting challenges. To fully grasp the seriousness of this standoff, one must examine the long-standing trade imbalance between the two countries. In 2024, China's exports to the US tripled its imports, fueling persistent criticism from the Trump administration, which has long accused China of unfair trade practices. Before this latest escalation, the US had already implemented 2 rounds of 10% tariffs, citing concerns such as the illegal fentanyl trade. With the new hike, the cumulative tariff burden on Chinese products now exceeds 54%, and in some categories, even higher. However, China isn't limiting its retaliation to tariffs alone. This time, it's deploying a broader strategy. 11 American companies, including top drone manufacturers, have been blacklisted under China's unreliable entity list. In addition, Beijing has announced new export restrictions on rare earth elements, critical materials like samarium, gadolinium, and terbium, which are vital to sectors like electric vehicles, renewable energy, and military hardware. China has also expanded its offensive by launching anti-dumping investigations into American-made X-ray CT tubes, and notably, extending this scrutiny to similar imports from India. These moves signal that China is leveraging a wide toolkit beyond tariffs, increasing pressure on US businesses across multiple industries. Global markets reacted with swift and sharp declines. The US stock market plunged, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average falling over 1,000 points. The S&P 500 dropped more than 3%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq sank by 3.5%. European markets followed suit, with the UK's FTSE 100 and other major indices suffering their steepest declines in years, reflecting widespread investor anxiety. In a dramatic response to China's 34% retaliation, President Trump threatened an even more severe 50% tariff unless China reverses course by a set deadline. Should that happen, some Chinese goods could face an astronomical 104% tariff when combined with previous rounds, a move that would deepen the economic rift even further. Beijing strongly condemned this latest threat, branding the US approach as self-centered and destructive to global trade stability. Officials reiterated that China will not surrender to intimidation and remains firm in defending multilateralism and fair trade. US leaders, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, acknowledged market volatility but remained optimistic, suggesting that businesses will adapt once a clear policy framework is in place. However, industries on both sides are already feeling the pinch, especially those deeply integrated through supply chains in machinery, electronics, and agriculture. This escalation comes at a sensitive time for China, whose economy is already under pressure. Economists warn that the trade war could slash up to 2.5% from China's GDP in 2025. In response, Beijing is expected to boost domestic consumption and forge stronger ties with alternate global markets to stay on track with its growth targets.
China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA. So we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. European Union, they're very tough. We're going to charge them 20%. Taiwan, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, we're charging them 24%.
With China, as you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said, if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on.
India, very, very tough, very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left. He's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it.
Meanwhile, Trump has declared that no temporary suspension of tariffs will be offered during negotiations. Talks with China have been halted, and Washington has made it clear, any future trade agreement must prioritize American interests on American terms. The ripple effects are being felt far beyond the US and China. Countries like Israel are facing new tariffs, while Japan is sending officials to Washington for emergency discussions. The European Union has offered a zero for zero tariff proposal but is simultaneously preparing defensive measures if necessary. Investor confidence is shaken across the globe. Hong Kong's stock exchange experienced its worst single-day fall since 1997, plunging over 13%, with only minimal recovery afterward. The financial shockwaves are already being felt from Asia to Europe to Wall Street. This is no longer just a dispute over trade policy. It has evolved into a full-scale economic clash between two global powerhouses, and the world is watching with growing concern. Stay tuned to the Oligo News for the latest insights and analysis on this high-stakes global showdown. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay informed on stories that truly matter. Thank you for your valuable time.